Orientation is locked. I want it this way. 1 second. Hang on, folks. We're live. Just give me a half second. Oh, why is it locked? Oh, goodness gracious. Let's see. Hey, we're live. Just hang on a sec. Looking at the backside here of the Pantheon. Two. Scooter going by. All right, we'll try it. Hey, we'll do it vertical. Let's give it a shot because all the youngsters like vertical. Hi, Amelia. Amelia, you should be studying. Okay, everybody. Hey, Ancient Rome live, and I want to take you on a little walk. It is 9 p.m. in Rome, and this is a nice, quiet moment to be here. People are going by. We'll see on their bicycles. I want to have you look down here for a second, and we're going to see a couple ancient things. We're looking down into the pavement level, contemporary with the Emperor Hadrian, and this is, come on this way. We're going to go this way and walk into the so-called Basilica of Neptune. So it doesn't look very big because the bulk of the huge hall is not excavated. But what we do have is an apse. So an apse, if you're not familiar with this architectural construction, is this recess. Sure, you see it in churches, but it all comes from the Greeks, and particularly the Romans. And you see down below here, can you see that big square base? It was once lined with marble. The whole recess was lined with marble. This is for a cult statue. So if it's the Basilica of Neptune, then you're honoring the god Neptune. We know that there is such a structure in the time of Agrippa, the right-hand man of Augustus. He builds a stoa or a basilica, according to the Greek source. This is the Hadrianic version of this structure. So we're literally just south of the Pantheon. This structure abuts the Pantheon, and behind or south, you'd make your way all the way to Largo, Argentina with the 4 temples and a pit. We have a great video on that on the reopening on Ancient Rome Live. But in between the Basilica, this courthouse, the Basilica of Neptune, and the Pantheon, and all the way to Largo, Argentina, in between is the Baths of Agrippa. So Agrippa built a lot for Augustus. Augustus, of course, ends the civil wars against Mark Antony and Cleopatra. And he builds a lot in the city. And he has his right-hand man and his great general, Agrippa, build things as well. So Agrippa is going to be responsible for a lot of things in this big floodplain. This big floodplain is the Campus Martius, dedicated to the god of war. Agrippa is credited with building the first Pantheon, the Basilica of Neptune, the baths. He brings the Aqua Virgo that still fills the Trevi Fountain. And then, of course, he's going to build a stagnum, a pool for swimming. And yeah, so I think you guys can hear me okay. Feel free to type in your questions or leave comments. It's a beautiful day, and we do get some re-erected columns here. We do get some of the entablature up at the top here. Remember, keep in mind that we are inside the basilica. We're not in the exterior of a building. We're in the interior of a building that goes back to the time of Hadrian. Now let's pivot up for a second, and we can see we're right, that curve right there, that's the Pantheon. So we're not starting with our typical kind of view of the Pantheon. We're starting with a little different view. And it's just to remind us that the Campus Martius was extremely crowded with all kinds of buildings. And this is just one of so many buildings preserved in Rome that has just a fraction of its entirety preserved and visible to us. What's that? Oh, my hand. So I've ridden a scooter for many years, and I never get hurt. And I hurt my thumb. So that's it. It's no big deal. It's a little sprain. I still can do workouts. but I have to do it on my fists. I cannot do a normal push-up just yet, so I have to be careful. But everything's cool. Thanks for asking. Let's go over and we're going to get a side view of the Pantheon. So we'll come over to the Pantheon today. We've done walks like this before. You can check out all the great new content on Ancient Rome Live. I'm going to tell you that we always need your support. A lot of you are very generous, and we appreciate that. We want everyone, the average viewer, if you're not involved in the organization, please get involved because we do extraordinary things. We can do this every night. Right? We can do this every day. So you're going to see a lot more live streams. So it's just ancientromelive.org/support. We're going to have some online classes again, and we're going to have a number of on-location courses this year, such as Vesuvian cities, City of Rome, and so on. Yes?
Audacious Biker, has a complete excavation ever been done of Piazza della Rotondo?
Piazza Rotonda, where we're going to be heading over to, that's in the front of the Pantheon. The answer is no. It has been excavated in sections. I need to devote a little video to that one segment that was revealed. There was basically a part of the pavement collapsed and an excavation then was done. And during COVID, they've revealed part of the pavement, which is probably almost definitely dating to the time of the Hadrianic Pantheon, not the one of Agrippa. And they subsequently covered it up. But they've done that in other times. So we know that the entire piazza was pavers of travertine stone in the time of Hadrian. What it was in the time of Agrippa is another question.
Stephen and Kathy Broussard, what year was it built?
The Pantheon was built, the last time, okay, let's go back in time. The Pantheon was built in the 20s BC by Agrippa, same scale. It burns down in the fire of 80 AD. We talk about that in our Larg Argentina video on the 4 temples in Larg Argentina. So there's a huge fire in the reign of Titus. So Domitian, subsequently, he succeeds his brother. He builds another Pantheon, and that burns down in a fire in 110. So the new up-to-date scholarship assessment is they're getting done with the Forum of Trajan in 110, 112, and the fire had taken place here in 110. So looking at brick stamps and so on, the new assessment is that they start to build the final version of the Pantheon in 114. Who's the emperor? Trajan. He dies in 117, so it's going to be completed in about 125 by Hadrian. So that's why we go around saying it's a Hadrianic Pantheon, but probably that ultimate awesome design was by our buddy Apollodorus of Damascus, who's the architect under Trajan. We're going to come over here and I'm going to show you something else.
She's asking, are the streets the same size from Roman times?
Great question. Yeah, look, turn around here for a second and show this little narrow street. So your average Roman street is 2 carts can pass. So this is like your average Roman street, a little bit wider, about 16 feet. So that's your average Roman street. Now, in America, in New York, they like to talk about Broad Street. Okay, so you had the Via Lata, which is Broad Street, and that's the Via del Corso, the north-south road that runs from the Vittoriano Monument to Piazza del Popolo. And it was a very wide street by Roman standards, probably twice as wide as a normal street. There's also a Via Lata, a wide street or a broad street in Syracuse, which is a major Greek city in Sicily. And I was just reading about another one the other day. Anyways, so there are a number of broad streets in antiquity, but the most famous one of Rome was the Via del Corso. Let's come over and look at this structure right here. Are there any inscriptions nearby? Of course. What kind of inscriptions? There's like thousands of inscriptions. That's a great question. I need to know what kind of inscription you want. But can you see this wall right here? See how that looks. Yeah, slowly. See that little wall? Panning. So that's the outer wall of one of 2 covered walkways for the Saepta Julia. The Saepta Julia, the Saepta was a, let me just tell you what that is. It's a voting enclosure. So where do you go to vote? You know, you go to your local, maybe it's the local school district, and you go vote in the States. Here, same thing, we use our children's schools to go and vote. So what do the Romans do? The voting was right here. This is the main place to vote. So imagine an enclosure. That's what it was known as, the enclosure. The sheepfold for all the sheep to vote. So you line up, you give your little ticket or someone verifies that you're from a certain tribe, and then you line up and you cast your vote. Now the vote was always out in the open, but by the end of the late Republic, people felt quite intimidated by other people. So you kind of like, I vote for this, I don't vote for this, and another guy looks at you and you change your mind because you felt threatened. So they do eventually institute the private voting. So what you did was there's an isolated area where you're given your little tessera, which you'll mark who you're voting, and then you deposit it in an urn, and then it's counted in another structure called the derivatorium. It actually is a pretty decent system, and you had that. You weren't behind a screen or anything like we do today to vote in privacy, but you went up on a little bridge. So on the bridge, you had that moment of isolation. Okay, so then imagine I'm talking about an area that's approximately 3.5 football fields long and 1 football field wide. So it's a huge area. You're enclosing it with walls. This is one of the walls. Now this is a wall, though, that's built in the time of after the fire of 110. So it's attributed to Trajan and Hadrian. Now, of course, the Romans, they don't like rain, so they always want to have a place to be covered. So that wall had in front of it a row of columns, 300 meters long on both sides. So imagine a very large covered hall where it ultimately, because of the grandeur of the city and the wealth of the emperors, it gets filled with artwork. So one is named after the Argonauts, referring to the art, probably a painting, and the other one is of Meleager, who hunts a wild boar. There's more information than you want to know, guys. But essentially, you have Republican times going back to 435 BC, and you build it again and again and again. Remember, it's from fire destruction and flood damage. So the last big one was built by Augustus with Agrippa, and it's called the Saepta Julia. So they now add the family name of Julius Caesar. So Saepta Julia, and then you have it rebuilt after the fire of 110, and that's the remains of which we're looking at right here, this one little piece of wall. So that also gives you an idea now how crowded the urban space was in the Campus Martius. You've got the voting enclosure here, you've got the Basilica of Neptune there, and then we're going to wind our way to the front with the Pantheon. So just and just beyond us to the east, there's a temple of Isis, and so on. So I mean, this is a really crowded area.
Joseph Hack, how far from there to where Julius Caesar was assassinated?
Okay, great question. So if I walk due south from here 300 meters and cross street, I'm in Largo, Argentina. And in Largo, Argentina, there are 4 Republican temples. And butting up against behind Temple B, this is all in our amazing video on the reopening of Largo, Argentina. Then you'll get it. And you'll see a wall that belongs to a space that was used by the Senate when Julius Caesar was assassinated. Why wasn't he killed in the Senate house in the Forum? Well, it had burnt down in riots. So it was in the process of being reconstructed. Otherwise, he would have been killed there. So it's a funny thing when you read your history books and you're told that he's killed in the Senate house, but then it's not in the Forum where the Senate house is. They used another Senate house. And that was in the complex built by that great general, Pompey the Great. So let's go.
Somebody said,
yeah.
How far? Bad connection.
Okay, so what we'll do is, no, I'm cool. Yeah, what's a bad connection? We'll just keep on going. If you have any problems with connections, just dial out and dial back in, as it were. We're going to go to the front of the Pantheon, and then I want to remind you that what makes Ancient Rome Live so special, obviously, is we have the knowledge that we want to share with you. We have 300 plus videos that we're sharing with you. We have a website. We have experience. We've excavated for 14 years and done study programs, and we're very excited to share all this material. But we're also doing a lot of lives now. And yeah, so if you're tuning in for the first time, we want you to subscribe, and you won't be disappointed. And this is like a little teaser tester for us, but in the future we'll be doing it during the day. So even if you miss it, I'd say that the quality will be better, the light will be better, and so forth. But don't forget to hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe. if you're joining us for the first time. We're cracking what, maybe 42,000 real soon, which is great. But it's
was the entirety of the Pantheon originally sheathed in marble.
the entire. Okay, so let's take a look. I mean, the light's not great for this one, but here's the deal. Let's come over here to the rotunda. A second. As we walk over here, I will tell you that yes, in recent studies, we feel much more confident that the bulk of the exterior is covered in marble, at least the lower portion, and that is from the original brick surface. So most of the brick surface, when we look at the exterior, it's not original, it's not modern. When you see, here's a little fun fact, a little, not even a secret, but here's the thing to key. When you look at these ancient monuments and you see all the chipped brick right there, do you see how the brick has a three-dimensional kind of surface to it? It's purposefully been chipped. It's what they were doing since the early 1900s to tell you, the viewer, that that's not an ancient brick. So it doesn't mean that the Pantheon's fake. It just means people have, some bricks fall out as the mortar weakens, but a lot of times people are robbing out bricks to recycle them. You know how like today you say, wow, I would really like to have brick around my fireplace. So they go to some tear down building and rip out the bricks and recycle them because bricks today are expensive. Same thing is going on here throughout post-antiquity, the late antiquity, and Middle Ages. So when you do see, this is Rome. That's not a good idea. Anyways, when you do see more of the original surface, I'm looking at a little segment right here, there are the telltale signs of some of the holes, the metal pins that would have been placed where the holes are, for holding in the marble veneer. So that's kind of, there's a recent article in the JRA. If you want some good scholarship, one of the best magazines to subscribe to. It's kind of pricey. I mean, it's 2 volumes. It's meaty. It comes out once a year. It probably costs close to $100, so it's kind of expensive. But go to your library, whatnot. It's a Journal of Roman Archaeology, and that's now taken over by Cambridge Press. But it's good, and there was a recent article on exactly this. So just goes to show you that even daily, there's some student, there's some scholar, there's someone doing research, asking the questions that you're asking, and then trying to find out those answers. And that's what makes learning about ancient Rome really exciting, because we're always getting more knowledge, and we're always getting people with other ways of looking at things to come up with new solutions to problems. How did they do this? Why is this still here? So let's just go. These are short. If you don't know us, we do 2 free lectures a month. We do a master class that you can pay for that supports us. And then we're big on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and so forth. So you can come and find us all at Ancient Rome Live. And then me personally, I'm Darius Arias. You can see all my stuff on all those handles. Let's just go to the front. We'll get the good stuff. And the good stuff is the front. And we're leaving the rotunda. Think about the base walls, the thickness of the base walls of the rotunda. It's 5 meters thick. Think about that, 5 meters. It is massive, and it's gonna be reduced as you go up to the top. But you gotta think about that rotunda as a big honeycomb. You guys know what honeycombs are like? So you have structural integrity, you have a series of a network of walls, but there are tons of voids. So we're looking at something like this, and don't think it's as simplistic as solid mass going all the way to the top, holding up a 5,000-ton dome. Rather, just like the later domes of Brunelleschi and so on, and Michelangelo, it's all with voids, it's all with hollow points. We leave the rotunda. We have the transition block. This is the transition block right here, where there are staircases that take you up. And in the future, I will take you up. I've been up, I will take you up in the future. And then in the front porch, the pronaos, where the columns are called the pronaos. And you have these columns that weigh 50 tons a pop. So let's just, take a little walk over here, and we'll kind of finish up with the columns. It's a pretty night, as you can listen. Still a lot of tourists here. Look at all these tourists. What the heck? What are you going to do? But this is what you get when you get live, right? You get a lot of people. It still feels like summer. We're still in the 90s. And it's a beautiful night, and everyone's out. And then we'll just go over to the colonnade. We'll just take a look at this beautiful view. Let's look at that gorgeous view. The Pantheon, and of course, we're not going inside, but we can go now with the columns. So let's go in the columns. Come with me. So if you don't know me, I'm just going to finish up. My name is Darius Arya. I'm an archaeologist. Because who knows, maybe you're randomly just finding a live stream and saying, what's going on? I was really big into Periscope back in the day, but Periscope is dead. We're going to give YouTube live streaming a try. You can see me on Wondrium's Traveling the Roman Empire. What's that? Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. So, you know, I've done a lot of archaeology, done a lot of teaching. We have a great organization where we're, I think, producing a lot of great content. So we really hope you subscribe. The stairs are right here. You don't see them, but there are 8 stairs that lead you up. So we're in a floodplain. People say, how is it possible that things like this, you know, can get buried? Well, in this case here, it doesn't get buried, but look behind you and you see the modern street curves down here. So when something remains in use, you just make it work, and you tend to do stuff like this. Anyways, the ground level is substantially lower than where we are today. Just go look at Dark Argentina, temples in the pit, and so forth. Look down at the Roman Forum and so on. Part of it is man-made intervention, like, hey, our drains are now clogged. Let's go up and let's put another series of drains, you know, and so that things get buried in that way. And another way is we're in a floodplain, so a lot of material is going to be deposited from floods. Centuries and centuries of sometimes, you know, biannual floods. So you're just going to get a lot of material. Imagine, I mean, a Katrina after a Katrina after Katrina, if you can relate to Katrina. You know, it depends what your age. You might say, what's Katrina? Because you're too young. But if you're old enough, you remember the devastation of Katrina. Then what do we do afterwards? We dig out New Orleans. Here, you don't dig it out. You simply put another pavement up on top. We literally can see that in section on various excavations. Let's just come inside here just to enjoy these columns. It's a lovely evening. Let's show them the piazza out here. A lot of people out. And if we take this, so what are we looking at? We're looking at apses for colossal statuary, now missing. We've got a bronze door that is definitely ancient. Various scholarly debates on how authentic it is to this building versus the original one. We don't have to go into that. But we can see the roofing system. So originally, there was a drop ceiling that hid this away, but it wasn't hiding away rafters and wood. It was hiding away beams of bronze that get robbed out by the Barbarinis, by Borromini to make the baldacchino. And I think we did a pretty good job here. We did a pretty good walk. I want to have fun with the live stream. We have a lot of people watching. 173 people. Well, that's quite nice. The columns are supposed to be taller. Absolutely. These are 40 footers. It was supposed to be 50 footers. Do they have any caryatids remaining? No, that caryatid description was applied to, in the ancient sources, to the Agrippin Pantheon, not this Pantheon. We don't think this one had caryatid figures. A dent from a ram on the bronze door, and I was there. Yeah, things are bound to get damaged. No, there were caryatids in the Pantheon. I'm blanking on the ancient source. Might have been Cassius Dio, but it's definitely applied to the Pantheon of Agrippa. So yeah, believe it. They were there. Ooh, a lot of great content, a lot of great comments. We'll do lives as often as possible. I appreciate that. And I'm going to work on, next time we'll try it horizontal, which will obviously change the dynamic of it. I think it can probably help us a lot more. And that will just add to our library on Ancient Rome Live. I mean, heck, like I said, the premise of starting Ancient Rome Live in 2014 was we like doing lives. We've been doing Zooms. We've been doing more lecture kind of formats, and this is a little bit different. But I think this is great, and I appreciate everyone who's on. And look, there's a lot of great content. I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of great content out there. And there are a lot of great people telling a lot of great things. But I promise you, there's nobody that's here on a daily basis that knows what we know and can share what we share. And I know what's out there. I know what the tour guides are doing with TikToks and Instagram and stuff like that, which is wonderful and fast and dynamic. We're going to give you more depth. We're going to give you these 15-minute walks. We give you already 10-minute videos. We're taking you around. We're taking you to Jerash. We're taking you to Elgem. We have a lot of great content in Pompeii. We work with the people in Pompeii. We work in the Museo Nazionale Romano. We work with the man in Naples. So we're going to bring you more behind the scenes, just as fun ways to learn about this incredible content, because we in the field of archaeology and classics and art history and architecture and engineering, we know this stuff is valid, and we know how excited you are about this stuff. So we keep the great questions and comments happening. Come and find us in Rome, take our online class. You're going to be able to take courses with us on location. And we just hope you keep on tuning in and make sure you subscribe. And thank you guys very much. I think this was very successful. We really appreciate your time. Oh, yeah. Okay, last thing is, I'm giving 2 lectures in Philadelphia on September 7th. And I'm giving a lecture in Boston on September 14th. And that information is on our social media. It's definitely on my profile, I think immediately, which is just Darius Aria Diggs. So please come and find me in Philadelphia or Boston. And I pop in all the time other places in the States, but this is the base right here. This is my neighborhood. So we're really happy to share with you. We'll share a whole lot more on the glories of ancient Rome, the lessons we can learn, the architecture that's still here, why Rome fell, all those great subject matters we'll be tackling. Thank you guys so much for joining. We'll see you again real soon. Subscribe to our newsletter and you'll know when the next lecture or location that we'll be covering. Thanks very much.